Good evening, everybody. Today is February 15th. It's a Tuesday. I want to welcome you to a special edition of the Sewer Commission. My name is Dave McDonald. I'm the chairman of the commission. This is a public meeting, is being conducted remotely. The following information is provided from members of the public that would like to participate remotely. To participate remotely from the computer, please use this link, which is on our webpage, by the way, or the telephone dial-in number toll-free 1-888-475-4499 and enter web bar ID #792-737-0353. If you have not registered to Zoom, you will be asked to do so with your email address. No participant ID is needed. Just press the pound sign. When asked, telephone users may dial 9 to request to speak after joining the meeting. Computers and app users may use the hand raise feature to request. I'd like to call the meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. John, if you can lead us into, you there, John? Mr. Reynolds? Did we lose John?
There we go. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and
justice for all.
Thank you, John. Okay,
Is my video gone?
I don't know what it's doing. Is it a waving flag?
A waving flag?
It looks,
No, I don't know. I can hear it. No.
yeah, it's not you though. It's kind of like, how you describe that, Rob? How would you describe that?
It's like an old analog TV screen. With the lines kind of going through the screen. Yeah, John, your video's messed up.
Okay, I didn't know you were that old enough to have watched analog.
I am. I'm quite old.
It's come, you're almost there. Hit the horizontal. Okay, there you go.
There he is.
Okay, and we have Mike on board. Mike, can you hear us? You're mute.
Yes, I can.
We just finished the Pledge of Allegiance. Just looking for any public comment. Barbara, is there anybody out there in the public? Seeing none.
There is not.
Okay, any public comment from the board? We'll start with Mike. No, John?
No.
Brett?
No comment. Thank you.
Okay, Mike?
All set, all good.
And Rob, any?
Nope.
And Barb?
I have none.
The current business is the fiscal year 2023 budget discussion. What we did was I talked with Barb during the course of the week, and we kind of went back to what we did last year. Bob has her worksheet. We have ours. Mike, if you look at it, Mike, no, we kind of set it up the way you and I talked about before, mainly looking at fiscal year 2021 versus 2022 and the budget for 23.
Yep.
Is that okay?
No, I glanced through, everything's good.
Barb, you did a good
Nice and
job.
simple.
Yep. So Barb, why don't you walk us through, and Barbara has her worksheet, as we all know, that she puts a lot of work into.
Can you blow that up, Dave? Thank you.
But we know Bob puts a lot of work onto it. So Bob, why don't we just go through each line item, starting with category 604, 6004.
All right. I should share the screen, you think?
I don't think I need it. Anybody there want to?
I've got mine printed out in front of me, so I'm good, but
I don't need it.
Okay.
Brett,
All right.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Mike, you all set, Mike? Okay, yeah, no, let's just go down each line item.
All right. User charges, we've got 1,022,550. That is, I don't know how you want me to do this, but I'll use my old ones. That's just going with our current customers and expected new connections. So we're at 1,022,550, and that includes the irrigation meter annual fee. So Oh, anyway, my detailed sheet will have those broken out, the user charges versus the irrigation. Next one down is as a rate increase. And I've just put it in there because as I went through my lines, it looked, or our description said that in 2021, we did a rate increase of 10%, but that after that, we would try to look at a rate increase every other year for 2 to 3%. When I get to the bottom line and you see that there is a deficit, I went with a 3%. So that is definitely a topic of conversation. What you want to do with that.
Why don't we stop it here for a second? With inflation at 7% right now, the business is taking a whack a little bit. Let's bring it around the horn and again, use your business heads here. And we'll start with Mike Devakis. Mike, what's your feelings on it?
Is 3% going to be enough? That would be my first question.
Barb?
Not looking at the bottom line, it isn't, but that's if everything else remains the same. But we can't raise it to, to cover everything. I don't think it's all going to be in that one line we're going to look at.
What are you looking at for a bottom line increase for the year?
Bottom line increase or deficit?
Deficit, I mean.
Bottom line deficit, if everything stays the same as what I've got on this sheet, with 404,972 in the red. That includes the expenses over revenues. It includes debt service over betterment fund revenues. It includes the transfer to capital reserve of the 3% or 2% that we were doing. I'm gonna question my own self. Have we done for multiple years, and the OPEB transfer, not a biggie. It includes a $50,000 capital funds expenditure. So there, it includes a lot of items that still could be discussed.
Hey, Mike?
So it looks like the biggest increase that we've got is the Leominster usage, correct? That's going up.
Yeah, well, it's
Without a doubt, yeah.
it's about level, not level, but it's close to the same as it was last year. I mean, we budgeted 500,000 for FY22. We're going to come very close to it. We raised it just a bit
Okay, why don't
for the new accounts and new connections.
John, any opinions?
Well, obviously 3% is not enough, but and I think we all knew that the Leominster usage was probably going to go up. So
We had that in the budget last year, though.
what's that?
We had the increase in our budget last year, which is still a deficit, but we had it in the budget. Mike, no?
So my take on it is when we did the 10% increase, you said that, we'd have to look at a possibility like every other year going 3%. I would say for sure this year, do the 3%, which is, probably going to still turn into a losing battle. And unfortunately have to look at next year, adjusting 3 or maybe even higher, depending on where we fall in with this. I mean, but we're going to be in a, it's hard times for everybody right now. So I guess see how it settles out in another year, and another 3% would obviously help. It's still not going to resolve it, so it might have to be a bigger increase. But it's hard to figure out as we go here. Let it settle in.
Brett?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this is estimated. And talking with Barbara earlier, she mentioned that, you know, typically it falls in our favor when everything lands. A little more time, I would agree with the 3% increase to lessen the impact of where we're going to end up. I don't think it's a panic situation here yet, but I would agree with moving forward that way and seeing where things land.
My opinion on it is there will be an increase this year, it's just a matter of what it's gonna be. But what I'm concerned about, and we're gonna go back to that at the end, we'll go through the whole expense and go back to the increase, 3% maybe it. Don't know, but we'll find out when we're done. But the next line item, Barbara, is what I have a question on would be the sewer connection charges. So in 2021, we did 46,000. This year you budgeted 15. Why the decrease so big? With all the developments going on board.
FY '22. We budgeted 15. Again, I was explaining with connections, you don't know what you're going to get for new connections. We estimated 6 new connections, growth of 2% in our base. When you increase your connection charges, then you've also got to increase your usage costs and your connection fees. So it's not always, it doesn't behoove us a whole lot to try to bump up connection charges if we think we might get a couple more connections, because then you're also bumping up your expenses.
Right, but when we do a budget, you kind of go by history a little bit too. So if you have the numbers from 2020, what was that number?
Um, 36.
All right, it's 36 to 46 down to 15. I'm just saying is that there's room right there for something. But again, that's why we have this spreadsheet in front of us. Any questions on that by anybody?
No, I kind of agree with the way building's going. You know, I can see that being a bigger number, but I guess, you know, that's see how it all falls together.
Well, this here, the 60001 is our actual income. So this is what we got to look at and see where it's going.
Yeah,
I agree, Mike. Bob, go ahead.
All right.
Inflow and infiltration fees.
Inflow, those are based, that figure is just based on the same sorry, estimate of those new connections. That's just the I&I fee that we collect per bedroom.
Yep.
Based on the Leominster rules. Penalties and interest just running. We just kind of level funded. You don't know. That's just people being late. Our demand fees and our interest. So we just level funded that. We don't really know how it's going to go.
Yep.
Sewer permit fees is our drain layers. Licenses, not a biggie. Grease trap permit fees, we touched on this at the last meeting. This is if this 3650 is if we were to charge just the non-compliant accounts at this time with the current annual fees that are in the grease trap regulations. So that would give us 3650 in grease trap permit fees. That has been waived the last 2 years. You see the 250 in actual, that is more, those were non-compliance fees. So that one account is lumped together as far as accounting is concerned. So
as far as our budget is concerned, you added in the grease trap fees before we took an official vote, or is that?
Yes, yep. And
plan?
again, this is a draft budget. It's all for discussion. It is just on the non-compliant customers. If we if we were to do it on all compliant, all all customers, it would be more like 8,200, I think.
Okay, so that's, we agreed about non-compliant customers paying, correct? Everybody agree with that? Okay. Okay, Bob.
Investment income, again, just, you know, you don't know. It may go down. We had it at 4,000 in FY '22. So that one's a guess, guesstimate.
Do we still have Bitcoins? Did we buy Bitcoins at all?
No, we didn't.
Yeah. Okay,
Flow capacity revenue. Oh, this is when we transfer over from, yeah, from ResCap.
was that the one from behind
Yeah,
Walmart?
that was when we, yeah. Yes, the Highfield Village was from FY '21. We've got the 2962 in there coming over from the Reserve Capacity Fund because of the Highfield Village payment. So that 2962 is a wash with down below the Fitchburg, John Fitch Highway debt payment. That's where that number comes from.
Yeah.
And then here's the 20,000 from the Capital Reserve Stabilization Fund, which we've used to fund the, you know, the more emergency expenditures under purchase of service in the infrastructure. We estimated 20,000, and that's coming over from our capital reserve. I did look, our capital reserve stabilization fund is right about 123,000 right now. So we've done, I think it's 4 years worth of putting in the 3% of revenues. So this 20,000 coming in is earmarked to be spent in infrastructure.
Hold on one second, Bob. Anybody have any questions so far?
Okay, before we leave the category, if we could just go back up to sewer connection charges again.
Mhm.
You know, a couple of you mentioned there's a fair amount of development going on in town, but how much of that is really going on in the sewer service area? I mean, how hard would that be to quantify? I'm not talking about a dollar amount, but how much of this development is going in the sewer service area?
Well, I know
So-
the project on Mass Ave is going in the sewer area. Is that correct, Bob? Was it 718 Mass Ave?
7-Eleven Massive.
711 Mass Ave?
Yeah. And
Which one is
again,
that?
That's the
That one's-
condo projects.
yeah, it's like, I think it was 8 units to the left of the Patton House. On the other side from Bonjour.
Yeah, but
but the
that's
question
not
is-
going to happen. That won't happen in fiscal '23, will it?
No, well, 7-Eleven is, Rob and I were discussing, they're in talks right now. And my question is whether, I think that could happen in FY '22. So I didn't want to put that into FY '23. The one
Okay.
you might be thinking of, the 5 Chestnut, which is on the other side of the Patton House.
Right.
That one, we're not looking at projecting at all yet.
Not yet. But then again, last year, John, when we looked at sewer connection fees, we ended up doing $46,000.
Right.
Where did all that business come from last year, Barb? That's a lot. That's a big chunk during a COVID year.
FY '21, yeah. I can't tell you, I can look it up. But
Yeah, I mean, people are going to be tying in and stuff, like the person on, what do you call that, Mass Ave there down by Esposito did. I mean, you're going to get people tying in all the time, but I'm trying to think of new projects on the sewer line. Rob, do you know any off the top of your head?
Yeah, just the two right next to each other, Mass Ave and Chestnut. Those are the only ones that have kind of come forward with plans. I haven't seen anything else recently. There's been a couple of commercial things, but nothing with on sewer. So yeah, I mean, I don't, other than the residential connections that might pop up, I haven't seen any, real developments that are coming forward other than the 40B, which, that could be in fiscal year 25 for all we know.
Okay. That answer your question, John?
Yep.
All right, Bob, we're down to the 20,965.40 number.
So I'm sorry.
We're down at the 20,965 number. I think we just finished that.
Yeah, I've completed
Yeah.
the revenues.
So anybody have any questions on the revenues? Let's go down to the next one, which is the 60001 category.
Yeah, in the payroll, the department head line, the 67,464 is just level funded until town meeting. We don't have any confirmed increase on that. The COLA reserve is a kind of an accounting for that in case it is approved at town meeting, cost of living increase. And then one correction to the spreadsheet that everybody has is it should say the proposed part-time employee should be 24 hours a week. That figure 27,456 excuse me, is 24 hours a week at $22 an hour, which is what we were advised was the best hourly rate that we should be going forward with. Salaries clerical is Miss Jane and her lovely minutes and other help with grease traps and flow meter reporting that she does help me with. And longevity for me being here for 20 years next year.
You've been there 20 years.
Yep.
Wow, we're gonna have a party. All right, so Bob, the question I have is go back to the part-time employee. Where are the bennies in that?
Pennies are show up down in the indirect cost category, down in the miscellaneous expenses, other expenses.
Why wouldn't they be in the payroll out of it?
Because that is not how accounting does it. We pay all of my health benefits, Rob's 15%, the new employees' benefits, liability insurances, the properties, the space that we have for office, all that is under indirect costs, and that is transferred to the town in one lump sum. It's broken out on the more detailed line item on what they all are, but it is included in there. And that's why in that line, we're down on the second page, the bottom line and other departmental. It is a jump, quite a jump from FY21 to 106 this year. FY21 was 72.6, and we're putting it at 106.1 for FY23.
Let's go to that when we get to that page. We're
Yep.
still on 60001. Are these numbers, you getting these from Karen, from the accounting
Yeah.
from Lunenburg? Is that why we're following it this way? Because that's the way Karen set it up? Okay.
Yep.
Maybe we should have Karen at one of these meetings in the future too. But let's get this one done tonight. Any questions on salaries?
No.
Okay, now if you look at the difference, that's because we're adding a
Can we give Bob a raise, or that's not our department?
the longevity pay. She got that for 20 years.
That's town meeting, Mike.
We tried, Bob, we tried.
That's $100 a year we're giving her. You think she'd buy us lunch or something? Okay, purchase of services infrastructure. Category 60002, purchases.
And that's infrastructure. That includes really the hardware of what we're doing at the pump stations. For the most part, it's got a little bit of in there for office assets. We've got in there 10,000 for general repairs in the pump stations and 20,000 that we talked about above for major repairs or replacement that happen on a kind of an unplanned nature. Then we had 5,000 for sewer lines, jetting, cameraing, 10,000 manhole repairs. We've got 10,000 sewer stub installations. Then it goes smaller amounts, police details, work on the meter pits, low meters. Let me just figure out. Oh, that's the equipment leasing that we do for the flow meters. We've got flow assessment, maintaining the equipment in the pits. Meter programming, licensing, which is the importing of the meter readings that I do on the quarterly billing. And so the total is 64,700. Our budget for FY22 was 64,400. And our actuals for FY21 was, I have 67,999. So it's in the same kind of ballpark.
Any questions on that from anybody?
Pretty straightforward.
Go ahead, Barb.
I&I remediation was 10,000. Just, we've got to always try to show the state that we're working on the I&I jetting or repairs that we do. So that's the same as it was for FY22. I don't have any details on that. It's not been it'll be determined more once FY23 begins and we know what we're working with or what you have decided to do during the rest of this year. Outsourcing at 96,414. Majority of that is on year 3 of the pump station contract. And then we've got generator contract also, because CTE outsources the generator maintenance to another firm called Weld. Billing support, we've carried this, there's like 4,000 in under outsourcing for the eventuality possibly of having our billing done out of house, stuffing and mailing. So we were given an estimate a couple years ago now of 4,000. So that's in there. Groundskeeping for pump stations when the DPW is low staff. And then stub location services. We always need help. A lot of our tie cards are missing. So we need to call out for cameraing help to locate some stubs sometimes. So there's 1,000 in there. So the total for outsourcing is 96,400.
So one of the questions I got is I'm looking at 2021 at 78,000. Rob, is this where you're using some of the budget money we gave you last year?
Well, we added the generator outsourcing to that since then, haven't we?
Well, it goes from 78 to 94. So is that some of the money that we allocated last year to you, Rob, for the maintenance program?
I don't think that was elsewhere. I thought, I don't recall why it went up from fiscal year 21 to the 22 budget. Barb, do you have any recollection of?
I've got year 3 for the CTE went up. And that was just a $3,000 bump. Let me see what else.
We're looking at going from 21 to 22, the actual 21 and why we budgeted more. Actually, what was?
We budgeted 78. Oh, I don't have what we budgeted.
Yeah, that was the actual. I wonder if the budgeted was still about the same.
So can we look at that? I mean, you don't have to get an answer tonight, bro.
Okay. I can tell you fairly quickly.
When is our fiscal budget running out from last year? Is that ran out already or June?
The end of June is the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, so how are we doing so far on the actuals compared to our budget?
You should have gotten that year-to-date for the last meeting. It's not bad. As of right now, we budgeted 66,147. Oh, sorry. I'm on the wrong section. We budgeted 75,000 in FY21 for infrastructure. I beg your pardon. Let me restate that. The budget that was approved at town meeting was 50,000 for infrastructure. We ended up spending 68.5, so it was increased to 75. Probably, I think, looks as if I took some of it out of we had more in outsourcing than we needed. This is all purchase of service is all kind of related. So if we have more expenses in one, we can shift them over with Rob's approval. So we had originally budgeted 50, we spent 68.5, but we spent less in other categories in purchase of service for FY21. Can I answer a question?
Yeah, I'm looking at your budget where we have the 21 actuals. But those aren't completed actuals, right?
FY21 would be completed actuals. Because that ended the end of June. We're in FY22 now.
Dave, Barbara and I will look at that on that line item, what the budget item, what it was budgeted in 21 versus what the actual was. There may have been money left over there, and you don't see it there because you don't have the budget number in front of you.
Yeah, my concern, Rob, is the bottom line of our total retained earnings actual for 2021. Does anybody else have a question on that?
I mean, I can tell you what we show. We show that we came out ahead at 190 for total revenues against expenses. Revenues were greater by 196,773. So FY21 we closed in the black.
That's good news, right?
Yes,
Guys, you have any
that's
questions?
revenue and expenses. That is not betterment fund and debt service. That is just like the operating budget.
Are you talking to me, Dave?
Yeah, I was gonna say, Brett, do you have any questions?
I do not, sir. I'm glad to hear we closed into black in 2021, though.
You know, Brett, I think your hand feature works on your Zoom thing, if you want to try that, just in case,
On my phone or on the computer?
on the computer.
Well, I just, I brought up, there's a thing in the middle called share screen. And I'm sure Barbara's doing everything right, but it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Yeah, that's for me, or for me to give you permission to put a document up. So that wouldn't be your video.
Yeah, none of you guys would be up there, so.
But if you go to your bottom line again, we see the screen share go all the way over to the right-hand side. You see the reactions.
Reactions, oh, okay, hit that.
Click that.
Okay.
You see where it says raise hand?
Oh, yeah, right, like that. Got it.
That works. That's going to get our attention if we miss you somewhere along the way. So right now your hand is raised. So to get that out of there, go back to it and just say, if you click it on again, it'll say lower hand.
Trying to take it away. Hold on, lower hand. Got it.
There you go. So if you have any questions along the way, just raise your hand. 'Cause everyone's looking at their papers.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So any questions on that category, purchases of service? The other question I got is our engineering services. Rob, can you explain that a little bit to us?
Yeah, Barb, why, I know you and I talked about why we bumped this up. And now I don't remember why. It was, I don't know if you can refresh my memory.
Yeah, no, not. Put up to 20,000 with projects needing engineering support, pump station evaluation. Possibly with similar to the Upland extension contract where we're employing Wright Pierce to do the engineering design. This is the category for it to be caught in. So I think we were allowing ourselves to have them either do, whatever we need to do with possibly an extension or pump station evaluation report or whatever.
Yeah, I
I
think,
just think you thought we needed more in there.
yeah, and part of that I think was for the pump stations. If we're looking at using some ARPA funds and we need Ray Pierce or another engineer to kind of put something together for us, I think that's along those lines that I was thinking.
So that's a total of 206,114 on purchase of service.
Yeah, I'm just looking at your other, this one, Barb.
Okay.
So purchase of services here. Anybody have any questions on that? But engineering services on this, you got it lower. So did you raise it on the long form?
It still should be 30,000.
Am I reading this wrong?
You might be in the subcategories. Look at right to the left of, look for the FY23 draft budget column header.
I'm on number 5, engineering services,
Right.
20, and I'm looking at 22 budget actual. I see 30,000, okay.
Yep.
But I went from 23 for the 2022 budget.
Right.
What's the actual so far in 2022?
It'll be the 13.2 for the Wright Pierce and the 10 for flow assessment.
Anybody have any questions on that?
At the moment.
Do you want to stop for a second, just take a look at this, digest it a little bit before we move on?
No, not really.
Anything sticks out? The only thing that's sticking out to me is actual 21 of total services of 172 to where we are today. In 2 years, we're going up 30, almost $40,000. Now, I know some of that's engineering, obviously. And the other one would be purchases of outsourcing. You guys feel comfortable with that?
Seems like the biggest jump is engineering. That's kind of out of our hands there.
Well, again, the outsourcing too is, that's 20 grand.
Right, I was just
Something,
gonna ask that. What's the difference with the outsourcing?
I think Bob explained it, but let's do a nutshell on that, Bob.
Yep, again, the year 3 of the O&M contract for CTE on our pump stations, they increased about 3,000. Given cost of living, basically, they increased costs. And that's primarily the biggest bump for outsourcing.
I think we overbumped it there a little bit.
Say that still leaves a $10,000 bump then.
Right.
And by the way, we're talking our When Barbara mentioned, it's MP, our engineering guys who work on the pumps.
Our FY '22 budget in outsourcing is 91,394. So we're bumping it up 3,000, and basically that is for CTE's year 3 increase.
Right, but I'm talking about from 2021 to 2022. There's a $14,000 increase there, something like that. I mean, we'll let it go. It's all this is budgets. That's all this is.
Yeah, so it falls, right, yeah.
It all goes down to the bottom line, but you want to make it realistic.
I mean, at best scenario, what it comes out to is that 3% makes it fall in, you know, online. Only time will tell that.
Yeah, but you know, before we recommend what our increase would be, I just want to make sure we all have a handle on what
Oh,
we're
yeah, no, I'm saying that a projected, you know, 3% right now.
Okay, you guys want to go on?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, Barb, we're on 6-0. You okay, Barb?
Yes.
60002 purchases utilities.
Right. These are all fairly mundane increases. Postage, goes up, electricity, you know, kind of a moderate increase just because the costs are going up. Water's pretty level, telephone's pretty level, fuel is very level. So it's mostly in electricity and postage that I've got any increase in here.
Should have bought forever stamps.
Good one, Mike.
With your Bitcoins. So let's go to electrical charges. Anyone ever check to see if we're on next amp on our pump stations?
Yes, yes, we are.
We are on
And we
next.
get solar credits. And last year was our first full year of solar credits. Well, no, I shouldn't say this year. FY '22 is our first full year. FY '21, it was a portion of the year.
So is that why the bill went from 32,000 in 21 down to 29,000 in 22?
Right, that's our budget for the year. Let me just, do I have the actuals in here? I've got actuals on this thing, I think. Year to date, our electricity right now is at 14.2. So it's and that's about 50%. So yeah, that reflects the decrease with the solar credits.
So in 2023, doesn't matter.
My description, electricity is at 14.2. It projects out to 25.3. However, winter months are usually higher. So you don't just give it another 50% bump. I had come up to 32 or almost 33,000. And I mean, I can put it to 33,000. Rob was like, he likes these nice even numbers. So we went with 35. I can put that down to 33 if that.
30 is an even number.
Let's say either of those aren't even numbers too.
No, but just
I get you.
we don't know. I mean, I was at 32,788 and he didn't like that.
There we go. Got it.
That's okay, Bob. Just blame it all on me.
I'm gonna put it all on you, Rob.
No, I mean, everyone's electric bill is going up.
Right.
That's at the bottom line. Blame Rob for everything. Okay, we're on category 6002, continuation on advertising. Flip the page, guys.
All right. No increases at the.
Let's stop on advertising for 1 second. What I would really like to do is there's a lot of people who are moving in from outside of town who probably don't know they can hook in the sewer. And I'm just looking, is there a way we can send postcards to our people who are on the line now that are not hooked up to advise them that now's the time to hook up if they wanted to? Advertising, or maybe run a little thing in the ledger. If you haven't hooked up, please call the sewer department. maybe put a picture of the maps on the, because I know people are not hooked up and have really, if you're moving from the city, I know if I moved here, if I was on the sewer line, I would like to hook up. So I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah, most of those get caught when the house goes up for sale and they do their Title V inspection. I'd venture to say 75% of those fail. And I guess if there's sewer available, they already know whether it's through the buyer or the seller. I think you're not going to hit too many people out there who don't know they have sewer in front of their house.
Especially when they're paying their betterments, so they usually will call.
I think that's what the other reason why we had an increase on connection fees, because a lot of people moved into town this year. I mean, we're at what, 12,000 people right now, so. All right, something to think about. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, and that advertising is very low. That is really just if we have to post, like we'll be posting hearings. That's really just the legal postings right now, that 200.
But by the way, you guys are kind of bummers sometimes too. I just want to throw that out there, it's just like, wow.
What was that, Dave?
You guys are kind of bummers once in a while out there too. I don't like your idea. Okay. Office supplies.
Office, field supplies, minimal amounts, pretty much standard as to what we've been paying. Capital expenditures, last year we budgeted 100,000, and these are the planned, major projects. I did reduce it down to 50,000, just because.
How much
still
of-
cover a good.
How much of that money is left? Rob, did you spend it all?
I have not spent it all.
Are we going to carry that forward? Is that what we're going to do?
I get my opinion on this is with the news that we will be seeing, hopefully some money from ARPA for doing things. I don't see a reason to carry as much this year on it. In fact, I'd hope if there's money available, I'd hope we'd have to use none of it, but
Well, can we lower that 50,000 a little bit? Can we bring that down to 25? Would that hurt you or
honestly,
on paper?
I think that would be fine. And when you're looking at the bottom line, it makes a difference.
Yes. But the worst thing we do is cut your funding too, but
Yeah.
but if you feel comfortable, who do we lose? We just lost somebody.
I think Brett raised his hand.
Put his hand up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Brett, go ahead.
Yeah, I would agree I like to hear what Rob's saying, but worst case scenario, if he sees a need, he can approach us with that need, and we would certainly fulfill and find a way to get that money to him for any necessary needs in that area.
Okay.
If he suddenly sees something that could make a difference in the future and it's beyond the $50,000 budget, it's not like we're going to stop him from doing that. That's all I'm saying.
That's a good point, Brett. Just keep in mind that the money from the government is going to be out there. We are going to get something, Rob. We've been bringing that up at the last couple of meetings that we got to start thinking about what do we really need.
All right.
So, I mean, Rob, I don't know if you heard anything, but I also know that every board in town is going to try to get some of that money, which is fine with us too. I mean,
Of course.
Yep.
What about if they split the difference? Instead of taking it down to 25, like somebody said, why don't we go to like 37, 38,000?
because Rob likes even numbers.
38's an even number.
It is. No, that's, I don't like cents in a budget. It's just that, or dollar bills. They don't make sense. But, and the other way to look at it too is if it's not spent, but you budgeted for it, it just goes back into retained earnings. So we're not, it's at the end of the day, it's still money you have, whether you earmark it or not.
I understand that, Rob, but all what we're trying to do too is try to, before we make a judgment of an increase, what do we really kind of think we have? Before we go out and vote on an increase for the public. And right now, we're looking at 3, but you know, every dollar counts. And it could, you know, it can go from 3% to 6%. So I mean, as we go along, but I know my concern as a chair would be to make sure this committee supports you on your endeavors. And I think you have a good confidence from all of us, you know, to say, what do you need? And maybe what you have. So that's something that you have to tell us what you guys think you need. And I appreciate what Mike just said. Mike is saying split the difference. I don't think it's a matter of us saying you're gonna have this. It's a matter of what you feel you need.
Yep. Let me think on that a little more.
Okay, we'll come back to it. But Mike, I like your idea too. It's just, you know, if I don't know what do you have in the account left? You have 50 grand in there?
Looking at Barb.
I know, again, we move things around, hold on.
Again, Barb, we can come back at it. It's just, you want to keep that funded just in case, that's all.
Right,
Yeah, and again, it's no harm to leave it at 50.
There isn't. At least we know there's movement there if needed somewhere along the budget. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay,
we've got about 27,000 out of the 100 spent. We've moved some out of that line item just to fund, I think, the certain line items, the Leominster connections and whatnot. So I'll have, sorry, I will have a year-to-date budget for FY22 again for you for next week's meeting.
when are we gonna finalize this, by the way?
It should be finalized. I mean, we meet next week on the 22nd, and then we meet again on the 11th. No, the 8th, sorry. And that on the 8th, it should be finalized because we go to the FinCom on the 24th before the next meeting. So we should try to finalize it next week. Unfortunately, Rob will not be here next week.
Right.
So by the 8th of March, we need to have it finalized for sure with Rob also weighing in.
I haven't seen any major issues other than maybe this last item we were talking about that would cause me any heartburn. I think you have a decision to make about an increase. That's probably, you know, your biggest decision at this point from my viewpoint.
So when is our meeting for FinCom, Barb?
The 24th of March.
Do you have an email from that, or is there a schedule or
Yep,
something?
that was Heather sending out and you agreed.
I agree.
You did.
Oh, okay.
I can resend it to you.
Yeah, I just want to put it in my phone. Okay, let's go on.
All right.
6002580. Almost a debt service.
Debt service, we have at 41,000. Again, from Leominster Debt Services based upon our flows. So it's also a moving target. He gave us an estimate like for FY22, and he's giving us estimates several years out. It was at 38.1. And so again, we bumped it up because it is flow dependent. We just won't know. All depends a lot on the users and the weather. So we were just covering. I wouldn't want to go less than his estimate. So
Right.
the Fitchburg debt service is pretty defined. So that's the 2962 that we're transferring in because of the Highfields payment until that is used up. Leominster usage, we gave it a little bit of a increase. We're going to meet pretty close to 500,000 for FY22. So we gave it a little bit of a bump for more users. Also weather dependent. And Fitchburg usage, we bumped up as well. I had current end of January was 116 projected out to 198. And then with the increase in people, and also they've got rate increases, we put it at 210. 210 with change. And I think we increased, yeah, I said for customers and usage, so sorry. I can explain. I mean, it's just, we've got the increase in there, we've got more customers, and we've got potential weather. So leaving it at, putting it at 220. That could probably, I mean, if we want to back off a little bit, I had it up to 210 with everything before that, and just kind of gave us a little bit more for a cushion.
Anybody have questions with that?
The connection fees, again, those mirror what was predicted above. I think it was six Leominster connections and 1 Fitchburg connection. That 5 Leominster and 1 Fitchburg. So those match what we owe, as long as they are single families that are connecting. And the registry of deeds we carry, and the mileage and the indirect costs that Karen provides, the town accountant, for 106, 165. And sorry, Rob, but she puts in cents.
I'm not gonna argue with Karen.
Now, is that a definite number, or is that a projected number?
No, that is couple variables on that. The health insurance is not known until closer to town meeting. She is projecting in there a 6% increase, I believe, currently estimating 6%. Also with the new part-time person, she's bumping it to the most expensive, the family coverage, but we don't know what that person would select for medical insurance. So that is definitely, those are estimates that Karen provides us, given her best guess estimate. So that would change closer to town meeting.
Okay,
But I mean, it's her educated guess, so. And that's it for other departmental expenses of 965, 632, and 82 cents.
okay, so the total expenses for the sewer enterprise fund,
Is 1,319,347 and change. Against our revenues projected at 1,133,962. So a deficit, if all remains the same, at 185, 385, 82.
and what's our projected deficit for this year? I mean,
Our budgeted
our
deficit,
actual, yeah,
our budgeted was 190, 516.
yeah. How are we looking now towards that number? Do we know yet?
No, we won't know until we're we're done. Right now we have we show a deficit of 216, but I think I've explained before that our expenses are high because a lot of the yearly amounts have been entered in that budget already, but yet we only have about 50% of our, usage or our quarterly billing in there. So the revenues will go up substantially. So it's not really too, it doesn't indicate a problem at this point.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on that part before we get into the juicy stuff here?
Nope.
Nope.
All good.
All right, so the next one is the sewer betterment fund. Go ahead, Barb.
All right, 687,992. is what we will owe for debt for FY '23. These are also from Karen. And our anticipated revenues are 503.81. So there's a deficit betterment fund over debt service of 184,911. And that again is estimated betterment revenue. The debt service is firm because those are loans that were arranged 20 years ago being paid out, but the betterment revenues can always fluctuate from what is anticipated as properties are sold or new properties come on, some subdivisions where we get an increase in privilege fees. So that moves around. But given what we know right now, we have a deficit. Rob and I were taking a look at the projected debt service versus betterment fund. We have this year and next year. Sorry, I should look over here. As deficit numbers for 2025 fiscal year, our debt service drops way down, and we look at having a surplus in betterment over debt service going forward after that of about 190,000-200,000. So it is bad. This is kind of Carl had foretold these tough years where our debt was going to be greater than our betterment funds, but it's a short period of time. We're looking at a couple years where this is, a substantial deficit, but then it shall improve. So it is not all doom and gloom, but it is for this year. The total deficit with betterment in there is 297 that we're looking at taking a hit on the retained earnings. And then just a couple more lines. The 34,1886 is the we've been historically doing a 3% transfer to capital reserve just for major expenses. So it's like our rainy day fund. The balance of that fund is up to about 123,000 right now. And that's another question up to you guys, whether you want to continue to do, for again, another year, the 3% of revenues. But that's the 3418. The OPEB is the town's state retirement funding. We've done that 656 for multiple years now since that was instituted. So we have a net of, unfortunately, a negative of 404,972 for our retained earnings or deficit spending amount right now for FY '23.
What's our delinquent rate on betterments? Is everybody paid? Or, yeah, has people not paid some of the betterment bills?
No, I mean, they don't pay. They don't pay. They're in tax liens, and then eventually.
Yeah, it's part of the tax base, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not. It's. I mean, it's minimal. If it is anything, it's carried a year or two, and then it's remedied by the sale of the property.
I'm just wondering why the number, it's out of proportion, why we're running a deficit.
Well, because as people sell, when we first assessed the betterments, they were evenly split for 20 years out with interest adjusting. But as properties sell and people have to pay off the betterment in order to purchase the property, that's why our retained earnings was healthy, and we would have those increases as people were paying off their betterments. So if everything remained the same, it was all, the betterments were all to cover the debt. There's still, timing with the timing of the debt payments, but that's why it's running a deficit.
It makes sense with all the betterments being paid. Sooner or later, it's going to catch up.
Right.
At the end, we're still making the payments, but it's not coming in as much.
Right.
Question.
No, go ahead.
If I'm reading this correctly, Barbara, we had a deficit, if this is correct, of 193,581 and 01,
Right.
which is more than we have for FY23. We're still able to end up in the black in 21.
Correct. Because the actual, and that's why these figures are in italics. Those are estimated betterment numbers. And I actually, just about an hour ago from Karen, finally got the actual betterment numbers, FY21. That we received instead of the projected that we had available to us when we were doing the FY21 budget of 610,748. We actually received 731,129. So another 120,000.
Nice.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
So Barb, the retained earnings right now is 1828.706. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And we're looking to take $500,000 out of that, or 400,000.
If we leave everything as it is.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody have any questions? Comments? Ideas?
No, other than moving forward, it's, you know, get a couple tough years and it's gonna get better, but just gotta keep.
It will get better. This isn't bad either, by the way, just so you know. This is not a bad.
No,
budget,
no.
so. And what's funny about this whole thing, you won't know until it's put behind us, so. But I like it. Let's go around the room. Mike, no?
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Brett?
I don't have any questions or comments to add.
Okay, John?
I think I'm fine with this budget, just a little concerned about next year and the year after.
Well, when is the relief coming, Bob? What year?
2025. So it's this year and next year that our the debt to betterment is harsh.
And Barbara, remind me, the user charges number, that included the 3% increase, or did not include the 3% increase?
On the this white form with the 3 columns?
Well, the $1,022,550.
Right, that does not. The 30,600 right underneath it is the rating.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay. So are we talking about doing a 3% increase this year, guys, or not doing it?
No, let's get to that in a second. Mike, do you have any other questions? Mike Tobacco?
No, I think it looks good, but like, you know, I agree with John. The next couple of years, I think, are going to be a little difficult.
I agree. So John, now let's go back to what you were just saying, an increase. We told the public, I remember last year, that we're looking at a 10% increase last year, and maybe another 10% this year. The question would be, do we go 10% this year and relieve the stress on it a little bit, or do we go 5%?
Well,
Go ahead.
I definitely don't think the 3%, and I'm a ratepayer, okay? I don't think the 3% is enough. So 10%. But I would rather do more than the 3% now and have to bump it up really high next year.
Yeah, no, and again, I would too. And again, it's the cost of everything. We absorbed some of that cost the last 2 years too. You gotta remember
Right.
that, to try to help the residents.
Right.
Rob, what do you think?
Oh, you're muted, Rob.
Yeah, you're muted, but you know, it sounded good though.
I started a little bit, so I'm glad I was on mute. I think you can't do nothing because we're not keeping up with inflation and the cost of doing business, the cost of materials. You know, the one thing to also remember is our contract with MP will eventually come to an end. This is their last extension. We could get zinged in the future on a new contract, and you're going to regret not having increased rates if you don't. I think the good news is when you look at the debt service versus betterment projections going out, it does get better. In fact, you'll see, you know, it's projected right now in 2027 to 2.3 million, to 2028, retained earnings up to 2.6 million. But that doesn't change the fact that you're still absorbing some of the cost of, you know, the increase in costs over the last few years. I think 3% is low. I'd be happier, you know, meeting halfway to the 10% and making it 5, you know, instead of going 10. So, but I think you have to do something.
You know, looking at the numbers and stuff, I don't have a problem with a 7% increase. That's just my opinion, throwing it out there.
Yeah, I think we have to kind of stay up in pace with inflation.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, that's one thing.
Dave,
Go
you were
ahead.
kind of close to what I was thinking. I was thinking like, you know, 8%. And then my other question to you guys was also is, do we have to go every other year? I mean, or should we, you know, come up with something every year where, you know, if we're needing to have an increase, we're not so much far behind. And if we don't need to have an increase for that year, then we kind of stay where we are. Every other year just seems like too long of a gap to not do an increase, especially with cost of living, with the cost of materials, everything just skyrocketing right now.
I think one of the things when you do a budget and when you work for a municipality, you got to make sure you protect the business and the customers. So I agree with what you're saying. And I think I was the one who said a couple of years ago that we should increase every year because we get charged every year from Fitchburg and Leominster on their rates. And some commissions never raise the rates as you do that. And it catches up to you after a while. I don't like to go a 7% increase. I think what's Leominster charging us, or not Leominster, what's Fitchburg charging us every year for an increase, Bob? You're muted, Bob.
Pittsburgh was at 6%. Leominster had 2.7% for a couple years, none for this year, but almost 3%. But Pittsburgh was 6%.
So if you look at the business, I mean, our business is very basic. We pay Fitchburg and Leominster. That's basically what we do, and a lot of work in between. But you know, they keep getting hit 6% and 5% and 2%, and the water meter charges. It all adds up after a while. So maybe what we should do this year is go to 7 or 8%, but put a policy in there that we should always match what we're on an average of what Fitchburg and Leominster is charging us. Otherwise, we're going to be way behind the hole, and that's not good either. So again, we'll just throw it out there for talking points. Brett, what do you think?
I have to agree with that. I know in my own business, just this past year with COVID, the changes, the unexpected jumps in materials, people paying their people more, just trying to keep them. I don't know if we have seen the increases yet that we're going to see for this year, for this current budget of 22, let alone 23. So yeah, I'm leaning more towards the 7-8%. area myself at this point. And people are expecting it. Let's face it, everyone knows everything is jumping right now.
McNaught, what do you think?
It's a tough one. It's definitely, I'd like to see it, that we have the ability to go up every year until this inflation settles in. I mean, the difference between 5%, 6%, you know, we're talking 10 grand. I kind of, you know, leaning a little more towards the 5 and see where, you know, see where it settles in next year. But then, you know, that at that point, next year, if we're still heading in the same direction, we're going to have no choice but to go, you know, knowing that there's another, you know, couple of years coming of, you know, we're going to have no choice but maybe put out a whatever percent it needs to catch up at that point if 5 doesn't do it this year. But that's my opinion, and I have no problem with 6 if it happens. So,
Bob, what would 5% show to the bottom line on our budget?
should be 50
Yeah. it would add-
formulation.
It's 100,000.
I have, it would add about 21,000,
5%.
5%. Yeah. Instead of 3,600, it would be 51,128.
I'm kind of leaning with Mike about this. I'm looking at maybe 8% increase. John, what do you think?
I mean,
I think we need to do at least 7. You know, we as a ratepayer, I have benefited many years from Leominster billing us based on water meters versus flows. And I mean, that was a huge increase when that changed. And that's part of the problem too. So I would like to see 7.
so if it falls in, let's say it does fall in 7-8%, I guess I don't know, the caveat would be maybe next year, you know, it does the trick and, you know, only have to go get a smaller percentage. I got a feeling next year, no matter what, we're still gonna have to do some percentage, no matter what we do at this point.
Right.
With the way it's going.
The way the business should run is that we should automatically put an automatic 2% in every year anyways, just to cover some of the costs from February
Yeah.
month.
Right, and at this point, at this stage of the game, the way it's going, no, we have to be a year-to-year basis to have control over it, to keep a handle on it.
Yeah. I mean, there's some other good news out there too. I mean, hopefully we'll get some of this money from the government for projects, and that will save us some along the way too.
Sure.
But as far as a business model, again, we're all businessmen here, and you can't survive on what we're doing right now. So there has to be an increase, and I just throw it out there. Excuse me, I would run an 8% increase based upon the numbers that I see here. But that would be my recommendation. And we're just talking. So we all agree about an increase. Is that correct? I think we're all saying yes.
Oh, I don't, yeah,
Yes.
without a doubt.
Yes.
Yes.
So, and again, Mike, I agree with what you're saying too. Next year will be a different year, but I still think that we ought to, during the course of the year, put a policy in there where when other boards come on, they don't run into this situation. It's an automatic. It's in there unless the board wants to change it for some reason. And that's something that should be implemented for the future for this business to succeed as well. But you know, I would go for an 8%. And anybody else want to talk about that? Brett?
Well, I would agree with it, but I wouldn't want to go much less.
Would you
And
go more?
I think the implementation of an increase every year is definitely a favorable way to go as well. And then leave it open to change according to what we see in that particular year.
Yeah. Would you go 10% or you like the 8%?
I'm sorry, say again?
Would you go 10% or do you like the 8%?
I would like to stay at 8. I'd rather not go past 8 unless, I mean, I'm open to going to more if everyone agrees, but I'd rather stay at 8.
Okay,
I think that's a pretty substantial increase. I think it'll make a difference. And see where the numbers land.
John, what do you think?
Barb, how many years did we go without a rate increase at all? It was quite a while, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was quite a while. I don't recall, John. I'd have to look it up. But it was, we had at least 3 or 4.
You know, just for history, but John, I think Mike and I were on the commission the first time where it brought up the raise the rates. I think Mike, wasn't that the first time in 5 or 6 years that happened?
It had been a while, but it's been a long period of time.
Yeah.
And by the way, we had the same conversation when Mike and I left the board with the new board coming in to keep the rates because you're getting charged all the time. And that was before the meter flows get involved. But
So
Right.
if you kind of put hindsight into that, if we were able at that point in time to have a 2% increase a year, we might not even be having this conversation right now. We might have just kept
Right.
right forward
Right.
with it.
That's kind of why I was bringing it up. But I guess I would go at the 8% and yeah, I would go at the 8.
Mike, no?
If that's what the majority wants, I'll go with it. I mean, I'm
Well, I mean, what's
still a little
your,
bit.
what's your feeling?
Well, I said my feeling, so, but I will go with the majority. I mean, and at best hope that, next year, a smaller increase because of doing a bigger increase this year will transition.
This isn't a vote, we're just,
Oh, no, and I'm saying if it comes down to like, if the majority of the members want 8, I'm gonna go with it. It's gonna be needed down the road. It's inevitable. I mean,
personally, would you like to go somewhere around the 5 or the 6?
I mean, that's my feelings, but it's leading towards the majorities not that way, and I'm not gonna stick a little over 2%. I'm not, I'm fine with,
No, it's good to know. Mike Devakis.
Yeah, I definitely think the 8%, is a good direction to go in. Again, the cost of everything, the cost of doing business is way up. So, if we do the increase and it gets us a little bit more back to an even balance in our budget, and we don't burden the sewer people on the sewer in Lunenburg, so we're not burdening them with all of the costs. And then I think every year we go up, a 2 or a 3%. And if there's ever becomes a year where we don't have to increase our rates, then we don't. But I think that's something we should decide upon every year at this time of year doing our budget.
So Bob, can you do this for us for our meeting on the 22nd? Can you run the numbers at a 6% increase and the numbers at an 8% increase, just to show us? And anything else that we talked about, if we could cut back on paper anyways on the budget, those line items that we talked about, like the capital expenditure, why don't you and Rob look at that on your own and see what it looks like?
Okay, and engineering.
In engineering, and anything else in there, guys, you looked at that sprung up to your face?
postage.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell you're doing with postage. Did you mail my Christmas cards from there? I mean, the thing that really bothers me is the limiter usage. I still would like to sit down and talk with those guys. I mean, that's killing us.
It's been a big increase, yeah.
And Rob, do you see that coming to an end somewhere along the way? I know you and I talked, you're giving me a little engineering thing there about water levels, high, low. How do you feel that's been going?
I think if, time will tell, but I'm willing to bet that this past year, with the summer we had and the rain we've had, This will probably, if we had to model the Leominster usage being metered for our flow, this was the year to have a conservative estimate. I think we'll see some dry years where that number will go down, and in the end, I would hope that we come in less than what we're currently paying under this, this new system. But again, time will tell. This is the first year we've been in it, but that's my thought on it anyway.
We had record rain this year in our area, so to get away with what we're doing, I think was pretty good, to be honest with you, because we were,
Yeah.
you can't get any worse than what happened.
No, exactly. So I think that, if you're budgeting conservatively, this past year was, a good way to start. And Barb was, pretty much right on with the number for the year, and we bumped it up a little bit, but hopefully it goes down.
Well, I know, and again, knowing the business is good of it, is good to know the business. But let's take a look at one more thing about revenues. Where else can we look at revenues? And one of them would be the connection fees. When was the last time we changed our connection fees?
Before my time,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we ever changed connections. What is our connection fee? Is it 4,000, 2,100, I mean?
It's 2,250, 2,250 for basically up to a 3-bedroom, and then it's additional bedrooms on top of that.
I mean, that hasn't been changed since I was back from 2010. I think I joined the commission. So the fees hasn't been increased, has it?
No, but you also have to be careful that the connection fees match. That's not something that the DOR, you have to show what your costs are in order to increase your connection fees. I remember working on this with Weston and Sampson, and a lot of people are surprised that we have both the betterment cost and the connection fees. Some towns don't do both.
Has Fitchburg increased their connection fees to us?
No.
Not Leominster either?
No.
Okay. Any questions on that from anybody? We're looking.
Mm.
All right. So anybody else have any questions about the budget?
not a question. I mean, not a question. This is what I would consider be a pretty conservative budget. So again, as a ratepayer, I don't really have a problem with an 8% increase.
Well, I appreciate you being on the system, letting us know that. Mike, no, you're on the system too, so is that correct?
That's correct.
So,
I am on the system.
it's good to have
I didn't
people.
know you were on.
Why
the
do you think I was
system.
going for the 5%?
Yeah,
I thought you lived over on the lake.
You're right, I do.
I'd like to say that I miss Bright Farms. Really looking forward to that.
yeah, no, we
Sewer
were.
commission.
Mike has rental property, John, in Lunenburg.
Oh.
All right, so I guess what we're gonna do is Bob, run the numbers. We'll bring them up to the next 22nd meeting, and it'd be nice to get this done prior to, so we can get it on the sheet for our presentation to the finance committee. Rob, do you have any more input on this before we all leave?
No, I think Barb's done a great job.
Okay, and but no comment on the budget, you're all set?
I'm comfortable with it as is.
No, I am too. And Bob, you did a great job on the budget this year. And I like the way we discussed it, and there was no sweating, and I think everybody had a chance to bring their input in. So we'll do one more recoup on the 22nd of February. Okay. So with that, our upcoming schedule of the sewer commission, a couple of things. I just got an email today from Heather. Did you guys get that email about meetings? They extended it to what, July 5th? For Zoom meetings, if you want to continue that. But the question would be that we said that we're going to be doing these remote meetings until the end of, did we say March or beginning of March, Barb?
March, the end of March, you had
End of
said.
March, okay. So neither here nor there. We'll let this go. Our upcoming schedule for sewer committee meetings will be February 22nd, 6 o'clock regular time. That would be remote participation via Zoom. Then March 8th at 6 p.m. regular meeting. That would be a remote participation via Zoom. So with that, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So motioned.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Mikey D,
Aye.
Mike Knoll,
Aye.
John Reynolds,
Aye.
Brett Ramson.
Aye.
Brett, before we hang up, I just want to say thank you. I know you couldn't participate as far as the photo, but you did a good job by following the little bouncing ball at home there. So thank you. And a night for myself. With that, guys, have a great evening.
Thank
Good night, Lunenburg.
Thank you all.
Number.